What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fourth Generation Podcast. I'm joining here once again with my sister, Priscilla. Say hi.
Hello.
How's it going, everybody? So today, every Wednesday, we go over a couple of scary stories that we kind of just go through the internet, try to find out the wackiest, crazy ones we can possibly find, and we like to share them here with you. Okay? You ready?
Yes.
All right. Let's get going. Okay, so my story is about Olivia Mabel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this story takes place in Salina, Texas, in February of 1991. Okay, this is where we start off the story. So Olivia Mabel and her son Aiden Mabel, and they live with their dad, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
So they live on this 13-acre ranch over in Texas. Well, not necessarily a ranch, but a 13-acre property, right?
Land, yeah.
Yeah, big piece of land. And Aiden, 7 years old, he ends up accidentally drowning in the pond on their property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get in pretty quick, pretty heavy right away. Yeah. So Aiden, at 7 years old, accidentally drowns, passes away, and Olivia takes the death really hard.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the point of the story where she kind of starts disconnecting herself from society.
Mm-hmm.
She stops going to church. She stops going to work. She kind of cuts herself off from her friends, to the point where her husband ends up leaving her. Right? So he kind of, I guess he decided to go ahead and just leave. I guess the death was way too much on both of them.
Yeah.
So Travis ends up taking off. He ends up moving over to New England, where he remarries a couple years later, right? So this is where things start getting weird. Okay, so let me see if I can look up the actual date. So let's see. Okay, no. So Aiden died on March of 1990. Okay. So that's when he passed away. Mm-hmm. So in February of 1994, this is when police officers started to receive silent phone calls, right, coming from the Mabel household.
Yeah.
Okay. And this point, Travis had already left. So they received several phone calls where it was just silent tone. Eventually, they were able to track it down, and the cops went ahead and I guess decided to go do a welfare check and they kind of snuck into the house, right? So they get into the house. The house is run down, very neglected, right? You know, it's dirty dusty, dirty house. But they get into a room which happened to be Aiden's old room, which is in pristine condition, right? Super nice. Looked like it had been
cleaned,
well kept over this long time. But what they find inside is Maribel, and she's deceased. Okay. In her hand, she's holding a little makeshift doll, little stick doll, that kind of resembles a little boy, right? So it's got like, let's see if I can show it to you. Okay, that's the doll. Okay. Yeah, I'll show you guys. Okay, so what else? So they find her deceased, and it looked like she had been dead for quite a while, for like months.
Jesus.
And keep in mind that they had received phone calls that night that they went to go check it out, the 911 calls. So they find her body. Along with that, they find what seems to be a shrine dedicated to her son Aiden, right? But on the shrine, they find various writings about the occult. They find scriptures that are like Tibet scriptures that translate to construct or rebuild. Yeah.
Oh.
So what it kind of seemed like, here, I'll show you too. That's what it looked like. That's what they found. Yeah.
Scary.
So what it pretty much seemed like, it almost seems like she had built not necessarily a shrine, but with the words construct and rebuild, it almost like she had almost tried to resurrect her son. Like the spirit of her son. Like she tried to, it almost looked like she
bring him back.
She tried to have a seance, right? So they also find various letters written to Aiden, right? So one of the letters says, see if I can read it. My Aiden, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have never left you like this. I'm leaving. I will not let you keep, or it says, I will not let you keep me, you vile, evil creature. Mommy's coming for you, Aiden, my sweet Aiden. Mommy loves you. And that's the end of the letter. Yeah. And that letter was dated February 27, 1994. So that same day that they got into the house. But she had already been dead.
Yeah.
It seems like it was several weeks. So it was long enough till the coroner couldn't
do a biopsy.
Couldn't determine the cause of death. Exactly. So the investigators walk in, cops walk in. They say that they feel a presence. One of the officers that was on the scene says, I spent a lot of time in El Paso, and I had an uncle that was into really dark occult stuff. I recognized it immediately. When I walked into the room and saw the symbols and the photos on the altar, I felt a strong, angry presence looming over me. This is one of the officers, yeah. It was honestly the last thing I expected to see in this town. One of the oddest parts of it for me is the date on the last letter we found, dated the very day we kicked the door. The city concluded that she post-dated everything, and I don't believe she was alone in that house. Yeah. Let's see what else. And then he would later go on to say, and I don't believe her spirit wasn't still in the room with us that night. But then that makes me crazy, right? Yeah. So that was what that's what one of the officers said. One of the first officers that was on the scene. She recognized the occult stuff like right away. Yeah. It almost seemed like she tried to have a seance. I guess I don't know if like the guilt like overwhelmed her, where she like I guess. I mean, there wasn't any evidence of like child neglect or anything like that prior. So she was a loving mother.
Yeah,
like,
it was just a simple accident.
It was a freak accident, right? But the accident just consumed her. Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine, a mother losing a child, and
exactly.
Naturally it would just be like, oh, it was her fault,
right?
So
yeah. So after this, years after, this is what the article goes on to say, years after the discovery of the body, rumors that the house was uninhabitable by evil spirits grew so present that the owner of the property at the time, his name was Christopher Hagen, hadn't been able to sell the property. In 2005, he attempted to debunk the supernatural stories. He hired an Austin-based paranormal investigator named Drew Navarro. So I guess he had an investigator, Drew Navarro. He came by and did an investigation. This is what he had to say. I'm not even sure if this was even ever on our physical plane. In 100 of locations I've studied, I've never felt such an imposing force. I couldn't breathe. My heart was constantly racing. Its energy kept changing, but none of it felt inviting. Whatever is in there, it's extremely possessive and behaves so erratically, like a jealous child throwing a tantrum. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, that house and the entire property should be avoided. I need a serious investigation because I'm not sure what we're dealing with. Yeah. So a lot of speculation going around that she tried to have a seance, but she summoned something else other than the sun.
The sun.
Yeah. The thing that gets me was the letter dated February 27th that day. But I mean, what the third to last line, I will not let you keep me, you vile, evil creature.
Yeah.
Right.
That line and then just oh, I love you, son. After
Exactly.
like,
And then just to be, mommy's coming for you, Aiden, my sweet Aiden. Yeah.
That's just.
And then, well, there's a lot of speculation online too that this story might have been fake. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, looking into it, if it is fake, it's a pretty good fucking hoax.
Yeah.
Because I showed you the pictures.
Yeah.
There's testimony. There's, there's, I guess, not necessarily, I would say witnesses, but, there's officials there that could attest to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That has experienced something like that knows what he's talking about. Like,
exactly.
You can't fake.
Yeah. And so I remember hearing this story a long time ago and right away thinking, oh, it's fake.
Yeah.
Just like the last one. I was like, oh, this is fake. It was too much. But
too much to be real.
Exactly. But after reading into it and seeing how much information there is available on it, I've kind of just like, well, I mean, it might be. There's a good possibility that it is.
It could be.
Well,
Just
yeah,
mind blowing. I mean, the way I think about it, it's like like the death of her son could have consumed her so much that she felt guilty, that she felt like it was her fault, that she did anything she could do, and clearly it just took a turn for the worst and ended up opening something she shouldn't have, and it just
and the one that's a crazy part is that there were 911 calls that night, but it was a silent tone, and they said that there were several 911 calls, but they all came all at once or all in the same night.
The same night,
she was already
deceased.
For a while.
Oh man,
that's a little spooky, right? And then and she was just found in the house with the little doll. She was sitting on a rocking chair, in front of that altar. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Spooky, huh? Spooky stuff. All right. You ready to tell yours?
Mine isn't as crazy as his, but. So mine is about a Alyssa McLemore. Mm-hmm. This was in 2009. Mm-hmm. She was the age of 21. She was unemployed at the time. She lived with her mother, was very close to her mother, and her grandmother. 21 at the
21.
time.
Okay, yeah.
And she had a daughter herself that was shy of 2 years old, 3 years old, that she was about to turn. So her mother was ill. Mm-hmm. She was close to her family. She was out and about for the day, I believe, and she received a phone call from her grandmother letting her know that her mother's illness is getting worse, that they think she's not going to make it. And she responded like, yeah, I'll be there right now. Like, don't worry. Like, I'll be there. Yeah. Which she never showed up that night. 2 days later, 4 days later, they had the funeral for the mother, and she never showed up. So again, she left her daughter, left her mother, left her grandmother. Obviously they report a missing person report. Yeah. So when they go about and asking around if anybody has seen her or anything, she was witnessed. A witness had seen her at near a busy highway. This was in Kent, Washington.
Oh, okay.
So there's like a busy highway that has like a lot of hotels and kind of a sketchy area that they found her. A lot of prostitution there. They say that she did have a history of prostitution. So
really,
like she said she had gotten out of that, but they ended up, they had a witness that seen her there. Another person said that she was witnessed. They witnessed her talking to a middle-aged white man. He could have been like 30s, 40s, driving a green pickup truck. He had approached her, but there is no sighting or nobody remembers or seen her actually get into the truck. But that night, So nobody had really witnessed her getting into the truck or anything, but it seemed like she knew the man because of her prior history, could have been, or, just a friendly person. But later on that night, they received a 911 call from her phone.
Yeah.
There's nothing else but a scream of help and the phone call. And after that, it was just cut off. Like nothing else after that.
What?
Yeah.
What? At what time was the phone call again?
It was around, I want to say the phone call was around 10 p.m.
Okay.
So she had been gone for a couple of days already.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that day that they had seen her witnessed, with that man.
Oh, yeah.
That later that night is when they received the 911 phone call and heard a scream for help. And from her phone number, they just weren't, the phone call wasn't long enough for them to track the location of the call. And, yeah, so they haven't.
And that was it. That's the last.
That was the last anyone's ever heard of her. She missed her mom's funeral.
Wow.
just never seen her again. Nothing.
So she obviously left on her own, right? Like that, because she said that she had already had a history of prostitution.
Yeah.
Was she like addicted to drugs or anything? I mean,
no, she did drop out of high school. She wasn't employed. I think she was like from job to job, just kind of, but she was always with her family. She was always super close with them. But yeah, I think that's the only like bad history that she had.
And then she had like a 2-year-old daughter.
She had a 2-year-old daughter that she, loved so much and wouldn't leave her side. But I don't know what happened this day that nobody knows. No one's seen her since. No one's heard of her.
So how long had she been missing when the witnesses saw her?
She had been. It was that same day that she had went missing.
Oh, okay.
And that same night is when they received the phone call. But a couple of days before that is when her grandmother called her, letting her know about her mom, and then it led on nothing. To Another time was when they received the phone call, which was the night that she went missing, and they just never heard anything after that.
And now, do you think like it was like the depression of losing her mom maybe caused something for her to go out there?
To just go do something. It could have been. But she hadn't even known that her mom had passed yet.
Oh,
they just had let her know, like, she's getting worse. Like, her illness is getting worse. She, they gave her a warning, like, hey, she might pass. But nothing. She never shut up or anything. And she was, super loving with her family, super close with them. And it was just so weird that she just, got up and left. And the way, the last sightings of her.
And she was
in a
just
sketchy
completely
area and just completely gone.
Wow.
And the only thing they heard was that one last phone call. And they only have a slight description of the man. He's let me see if I could find the description. Let's see.
This happened in 2009?
Yeah.
2009.
2009.
Okay. In Washington.
Let's see. Yeah, she was approached by a 1990s model pickup truck.
Yeah.
Out of state license plate, so the license plate wasn't even from Washington. And this guy, Caucasian man in his 50s and 60s, excuse me, I missed that. 5 feet 8 inches, about 175 to 185 pounds. Yeah, driving a pickup truck.
A green pickup truck. Man.
Yeah.
Did anybody know the guy prior? Like, did anybody know if like she knew the guy?
It
just says it seemed like
it seemed like the way that they approached each other. The way he approached her.
They had met before.
They met before. Like they knew each other prior to this, but yeah, from then on, like nobody seen her. Nobody actually saw her get into the truck, so they don't know if it was with that man. If she went with him or.
Jesus Christ.
Anything like that.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so they just received the last one, the 911 call, and then that was it.
That was it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Just screaming for help, and that was it.
Like if somebody like
yanked
like if
the phone.
she's got the phone and they yanked it from her and asking for help and they cut her off.
Has there been any sightings of her since or anything?
Since, no.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Anything reported on the pickup truck? Like any sightings after that?
No, just because it was from out of state. I mean, nobody.
Not a lot of locals would know.
Locals.
Very interesting. What was her name again?
Alyssa McLemore.
Oh, Alyssa McLemore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's This is the same picture that comes up, but just this.
Okay.
Yeah, 20. She might be in there. What age now? 21. She was then.
Yeah, that was in 2009. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
Sad.
Story. Another sad story.
Sad. I mean, yours is pretty.
Another sad disappearance.
Another sad one.
Anything you wanted to add
to your story?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was just crazy.
It was. Reading it was insane. I remember seeing it years ago. I think I remember seeing this story for Surfer like in 2016, like around there. That's when I saw it. That's when I first saw it. I think I came across it on YouTube and then kind of just, I was like, oh, that's crazy. And then just never really looked into it until recently. And I saw it and I was like, oh shit. Yeah. I definitely got to talk about this one. But yeah, there's a lot of speculation online saying that it might be fake. Because I think they were talking about it trying to like promote a movie. Like it was like
they were gonna try to make a movie out
they
of
were
it.
gonna kind of like make a short film out of it, or just something along the lines, kind of like the Blair Witch. It was like a smaller time, small production type movie. But I mean, there's speculation like that, but then a lot of people do say that it is real. And so then there's a lot of information about it. I'll probably if you guys want to look it up yourselves, it is pretty interesting. Just given like the whole situation, pretty realistic. Mother loses a child out of guilt, kind of drives her into insanity and tries to summon the spirit of her son, but then accidentally brings in something else.
Kind of reminds me of Hereditary.
A little bit, yeah.
That's when it came up in my head. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, I don't know. Could be true.
And it was because she tried to she tried to summon her daughter, but
back,
it ended up being something completely different. Yeah.
Watch it, but don't watch it.
if you can stomach that movie Hereditary, I do recommend you watch it. But before you watch it, try not to watch it.
Try not to watch it.
But Hereditary was one of my favorite movies of that year. I think it's my last favorite horror movie. Yeah,
it is something different, but that's the first thing that came up to my head when you
I didn't see that. Yeah, I didn't see the connection, but yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Now, but no, yeah. I was like, I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, once again, this was fun.
This was fun.
If you guys like this kind of stuff, join us every Wednesday. We go ahead, we look at whatever stories we can find, spooky, scary, missing persons, and we kind of try to share those with you guys. If you guys like what we're doing here, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys all in the next video. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.